How are you?
And where are you at home, or are you in the office, or?
I'm at home at home.
Okay, excellent. We've just had our lockdown in Singapore extended by another month, so we shall be here till the 1st of June. So, but anyway,
Where are you?
I'm in my office. We're behind a shelf full of shoes, which will not be used for quite some time. I can only imagine.
Okay, so you exposed your favorite shoes, or what is it?
I have actually. They're primarily all the bespoke shoes that I've had made, which I probably never wear because they're all usually not the most comfortable. So, so, so I've just made them with the decorations instead.
Very nice.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much for joining me. I think that everyone today is sort of doing everything from their video screens. So whether you're socializing or you're doing your work calls, people even exercising, they're getting their sort of live stream HIT classes or their spin classes or racing each other in Peloton. But this seems to be the new reality for a while. But I have to say, it's been a very fun and uplifting experience speaking to the wonderful people from the different brands. And I'm looking particularly happy to be speaking with you. I like what you've been doing for your on your social media.
Okay. I just wanted to start this moment with you by sharing something which is not a Negroni in the morning. Early, but you dressed up like this. I also thought about what can I do to be in the Ways life.
Cheers.
This is the environment. Cheers.
Very good. You look like you're having a green juice.
Cucumber. Sorry?
Is it a green juice?
It's cucumber, apple, and ginger. Super good.
When you get to the end of the day and you feel like treating yourself, what is your cocktail of choice?
It's a good question. I don't have one favorite. I like the Hugo. You know Hugo?
I don't. Please, what is this?
It's a kind of it's a little bit like the spritz, but it's not a sour spritz. It's a sweet kind of spritz.
Fantastic.
I like that. It's super fresh. A lot of mint, ice. Very good.
That sounds phenomenal. Chabi, please. Thank you so much for joining me. It was interesting when I opened up the information related to what you were launching this year. I actually got super excited because it's something that we've been waiting for since 2018. Well, it was first unveiled in 2018, and we kept, saying this is so cool. I mean, I just absolutely love it. Will it be possible to actually make this a production watch? Because it was so crazily ambitious, And this is, of course, the Altiplano Ultimate concept, the world's thinnest mechanical watch at 2 mm, which is actually, incidentally, thinner than the world's thinnest movement already, previous to this, but for the entire watch, right? And so tell us about this, because this is an amazing news, Sumit, maybe you can pull up the image. Well, let's go back to 2018, maybe. Let's start with the original watch that you created. I know Sumit has some images of that. And tell us about the challenge that you want to give yourself in terms of creating this watch.
So I think that the starting point was really, okay, we're soon celebrating the 6 years anniversary of the 9P. How can we make it really a watch that is as thin as the original movement that we created at the time, which was 2 millimeter. So it really came up like an idea, a crazy idea, as you said. And then little by little, we had all the passion and the passionate people and our craftsmen, the engineer, everybody started to say, maybe it's possible. So maybe we can do it. And they started to find ways to really reduce the size of every single component. And of course, the fusion of the watch and the case became also quite natural. And it required like 4 years of hard work, a lot of people behind. It also required to work on patents. So we had 5 patents coming out of this watch. And in the meantime, while we were doing this amazing watch, we also had ideas on that we have used on different other watches. That was the 2018 unveiling of the thinnest mechanical watch in the world. That was at the time it was working, so it was called a concept, but the reality it was already working.
Incredible. So actually, the image that you were showing before was the 910P, which is the watch that was the predecessor to it. We can look at that actually because it's an important watch, because it is the watch that was the first time that Piaget used this technique of integrating the base plate into the case back of the watch. So maybe let's pull that up, because that also is to me, a very important watch. And I think it was the first watch that I can think of that was below 4 mm, like 3.95 actually, if I'm not mistaken, correct? And already, this was super ambitious. This was at the time so daring, and this in some ways gave birth to this technique of integrate or building a watch in a completely different way, where instead of having a movement in the case back and then a bezel, you integrated for the first time the movement into the base plate of the movement into the case back. Is that correct, Chabi?
Exactly. In fact, it's not really the predecessor. It came with while we were developing the other one. We had this idea, so we started trying it, and this one was 3.6, and it's true that it was the fusion of the case and the movement. So that's how we started to in a way commercialize this idea. And then yes, we came with the 2 mm, but that's for sure we never stopped there. You asked me the question in 2018. When can we actually wear it and own it and so on? So we worked very hard on that too. So it took us 2 years. We didn't change much on it, but we wanted to go through every single test that makes a watch a daily watch. So we used exactly the same test that we do on our other watches to make sure that it was robust enough and everything that needs to be a daily watch. And now it's a daily watch. So we are very excited about that.
That's
very proud of the people that are actually making that.
Okay, so this is the watch from 2018, and this when we saw this watch, we all just lost our minds, and I remember everyone kept on taking it from you and kind of turning it outside, and you just can't believe it. In some ways, you almost feel like you've taken like a picture that has been printed and you've cut it out with a pair of scissors, because it's so crazily thin. For people who 2 mm is almost nothing, and I think one of the greatest challenges that you had was how are you going to mount a balance wheel into this? But there's not a traditional sort of balance staff with the traditional Inca block shock absorption system. Instead, the entire balance is sitting on a set of ball bearings. And I think that this was a really cool and modern solution to this. But there's so much going on here. And then, of course, you've got the famous crown, Chabi.
The crown and the device that helps you to multiply the effect of rotating. Otherwise, it would take you too long to do it. So that was also patented. The material that we use also is something very unknown, let's say, or not used, at least in our industry, which is the cobalt. It's a very robust material that we had to use. It's so thin that we could not even engrave at the back in the middle of the movement because it was too close to the actual movement. So all the challenges that we overcame just makes us super proud today, and super proud for Piaget, because Piaget has been pushing and trying to do that. It has always done in it, and I think we see it here. It has always, but we've always been doing that also for the design of it. And I think this shows where Altiplano sits. Altiplano is not a round classical watch. Altiplano describes all the very contemporary, pioneering, and I would say even futuristic type of design. And we see it from the design from the 60s, because when we did the 6 years anniversary, no one could tell it was a 1960 watch. Even at the time, it was not vintagey at all. And I think that's where Altiplano is. Altiplano is the most audacious and contemporary classic watch.
Absolutely amazing. And what I love is also this idea that you're mentioning before, that you had to use a new material that had never been used in a watch case before, which was cobalt. Now, it had to be used as cobalt because that's a very stiff and resilient material, because the watch is so thin that when you strap it onto your wrist using a normal material, the material will flex, right? So cool.
It would be too fragile, yes, to work on. So it was even more a challenge for the guys to actually do it, because it was very resistant. So to work on it, and it's not only to work on it to put the movement inside, it's to craft and engrave the movement within the cobalt material, which was quite spectacular. Because
yes, of course, you're right, because the case is the base plate, so you have to work with a material that's very hard to machine. Of course, wow, that's incredible.
Makes this watch completely exclusive, and today we're gonna be able, with what we have, to craft around 3 per year, but makes it super exclusive. And I think what is also very interesting, because we also wanted to add something more than the fact that we could wear it and now own it, is we also worked on personalization. And because
cool.
this watch is a unique watch, really, it's the rarest you can imagine, we wanted to add another challenge. And we are today able, we developed a device that will allow you to use more than 10,000 possibilities to personalize with super exciting colors, green, burgundy. It's the array of colors that we are using, not only on the cobalt, but also on the component, the engraving that we can have on one side. It's spectacular. So you can choose your own, my dear.
That's thank you, Chabi. I guess did you say that you're only going to be making about 3 of these a year? Wow, that's an incredibly rare watch then. And so we have some images that you shared with us also of, I guess, the first 3 watches that will be coming out. Each of them that's very different in characteristic. And as Chabi was saying, that moving forward, you will be able to sort of personalize your watch with all these infinite combinations of color and so on. But okay, so I love this one because it's got this sort of dark machine, slightly sexy and kind of like, you know, a little bit sinister vibe to it. Tell us a little bit about this execution and what you like about it.
Again, I think this also continues to say what I said before about this contemporary look and feel of this Altiplano. And I think this is a full kind of blackout type of watch that we really like, because again, it's I think very aesthetic. And on top of that, if we go back to your drawing idea, this is actually the watch, and it's a drawing that starts to function and to work. And I think that's the nice part of it. And if you look at the other pictures also, we've been quite creative in the color, but 3 a year plus the personalization will make that you should never have anyone in the world that should have the same as you. It's impossible.
That's so cool. That's absolutely amazing. Now, so guys, if you're looking at this right now, one of my favorite elements to this watch also is that it's got the world's coolest power reserve indicator, and that it just basically has a super skeletonized ratchet wheel covering the spring, the mainspring, and you can tell basically the state of mind of the mainspring just by looking at it, which I love. And you know what else is cool about it is that if you were to remove the words Piaget, somehow you would still know immediately that it was a Piaget as well, just by virtue not only of the dial, but also just somehow the technical language is just very you also. So I guess the question that everyone has now, understanding that there's just 3 of these being made a year, that you have this incredible capacity for personalization, is would you have an approximate price for the Piaget Altiplano Ultimate concept?
Yeah. Well, that was not an easy one, huh? Because if you look at the cost of developing it, the time that it took, it has in fact no value. So it was very difficult to imagine a value for that. So we have indeed come up with a value that is absolutely aligned with what we have put and developed in the watch. But as the watch is super rare, we also would like to have the price and the value of it not known in a way.
Okay, so price upon request.
Price upon request.
And of course, I'm sure there's some subtle differences in terms of what configuration you choose and so on and so forth. But that's really cool. This is a wonderful one as well. And Chabi, before you were mentioning also that you have the capacity to add some color to the watch as well. And of course, people were saying, okay, where can you add the color? So it goes to show you right here that there's all these sort of bridge-like elements that are framing the time indication, framing the balance wheel, and those you can have in colors that you would prefer to have as well, right?
Absolutely. And in an area which is here with a kind of a black place, we can also engrave your initials. We have all the bridges we can change. We can change also the back, as you can see. And we have worked already and developed already very nice colors. We have a brown, which is a super nice brown. We have a burgundy. We have a green. There are spectacular colors that you can actually create. And as soon as you will see the tool to do that, you can then completely liberate your imagination.
Now, before I transition into speaking a little bit about the Limelight Gala, I want to ask you a couple of questions about the experience of what we're all undergoing and the relevance of beautiful watches and jewelry in it. But first of all, I want to say that I really enjoy watching you on Instagram from your garden, where you're kind of, giving us a bit of philosophy about the sunny side of life. And I think that you should know from the people who are watching this, it's actually very uplifting, right? Because sometimes we can get a little bit sort of lost in our own thoughts, and to have someone who's bringing positivity, who's bringing some happiness that's in a natural setting, that's, genuinely showing, quote unquote, the sunny side of life, is actually so important right now. So what gave you the sort of motivation to start doing this?
First of all, I think that in every situation, and it's quite dramatic what we're living now, we have to find some positives. And we see that we have learned the new ways of working. We have seen here how we learn new ways of interacting. And I think we were going to keep a lot of this and add up to what we had before to really make a combination of environment, of moments, of sharing. So I think we've also learned how to live with more solidarity in mind. We have learned how to live with helping each other. And that's also very important to keep. So in every situation, we have to find the positive. And then on my Instagram, in a way, I try to be very authentic. So I just had a discussion with some people, and we said, okay, why don't we share the good moments in these moments? So that was one of my good moments. I also thought practice sport, which I never have time, and that's not an excuse because we can always find the time to do it. But the will wasn't there, and I started also. So I think there are a lot of things that I try to convey to show also the reality of everybody, how we live, and it's not always via I would say the filter of our industry, the filter of how we want to talk. It's not all about the press release. It's more about natural connection.
That's wonderful. One of the things I've always admired about you also is that, there's always been a great way in which you've led the company to be very conscious about how it creates, how it impacts the surrounding, how it uplifts the human beings that are working with you. And I think that probably the Piaget team are some of the happiest people I've ever met. And I always find your functions, your parties to be really nice because people are genuinely pleased to be there and are very nice and convivial to each other as well. There's none of the sometimes snobbiness that goes along with luxury. There's just a kind of nice warmth to it. I interviewed Jean-Claude Biver, I think about a week ago, and he said something quite interesting. He said that one of the issues facing the third millennium is that the people, or many of the people who are leading the biggest businesses in the third millennium, are still using 20th century philosophies. And one of the major 20th century philosophies was we must maximize profit regardless of its impact on the human resources and on the natural resources, regardless of how it affects other people and how it affects the world. And he says that he thinks one of the biggest takeaways we're going to have after this is we realize that we can't do this anymore. We have to produce in the right way, in balance with uplifting people's lives, also with affecting the environment in the correct way, and to do things in an ethical way. Would you agree with this? And this is important to you?
Of course, I agree with the fact that this is something that we should all take out from this experience. Then it's absolutely relevant, but it's not new. At least, as you said, with Piaget, we always try to do the right ways of working, but also the right ways to produce. We have our manufacturers here. We engage a lot with the people. So it's nothing it's nothing new, I would say, but definitely it's very important. It's probably also the way we talk about it. When we talk about sustainability, we know that people are very interested into that nowadays, the younger generation also, but we've always worked on it. We always try to improve every year, every day, every semester. So it's not new, but now, of course, it's probably more to the forefront. And I think that today, within our organization, for example, we're quite younger, I would say, organization. So a lot of this 21st century mindset is already integrated into it, which is interesting because we see now with what's happening. We have people super up and running straight away. When you can't physically see each other, then you know how to do it differently, and that's quite interesting. And I find that interesting also because we see the kids today, they don't have real life interaction, but they're still very happy and so on, most of them. And today we kind of also live the way they live. Because if you ask them, are you not missing your friends? Or like, no, fine, we see them all day long on FaceTime. So how is that? So I think we also learned some things which are more Gen Z, and it's a way for us to get into the Gen Z way of working and way of living.
I totally agree. You know, it's funny because initially when I started to interact with millennials and Gen Z, and I know you've got kids, so it's fun to also understand their perspective as well. You know, I used to be a bit dismissive about them because I was like, these millennials, they're so nomadic. They do one job and the next job and they never stick at anything. And also, but you know, I realized actually that we're now learning from them, and a lot of them are right, because for them, ethics were very important, and how you run a company is just as important as what that company does and how it performs. And I guess, and you know, I used to be a little bit freaked out when I saw Greta von Thunberg, you know, yelling about the environment. And now when I'm like, actually, she was right. She was completely right. We should have all listened to her, you know? So I guess we have to make sure that we cherish the next generation. How do you, as a venerable maison that creates incredible watches and beautiful jewelry, connect with the next generation? Is digitization, for example, a very important thing moving forward?
It is super important, and it's interesting because me and my teams, we never felt that we have transitioned from one place to the other. It came very naturally. I wasn't there, but in 2012, Piaget was already online. So it was the first ever. We went very naturally with Net-a-Porter, the first also in the hard luxury good. It has not been a transition from one place to the other because the organization was already native to that. So it came very easily and naturally blending into our organization. So the digital transformation has not had a kickoff and it was just a natural transition. So I found that very interesting also because I went to a lot of conferences. I went to talk to people. People came to our company to talk, and it wasn't the same experience. We were not living the same experience at Piaget. So it's very interesting how we all live differently. And I think that is due to our teams, due to the people that we have, due to the fact that the expertise, having people that understand data, understand the way we work with that, it's indeed not in all our bigger generation, but it is very true for the younger generation. We just need to have the right people, the right talents to use the right new ways of working and methodology. So that makes it natural.
Very cool, and totally agree. Now, may we please transition to a beautiful woman's watch, or a family of women's watches, the Limelight Gala Precious Sapphire Gradient. And I love the use of these gradient sapphires to create this kind of emotional expression, this kind of sense of velocity. It's just moving towards the center of the watch. Please tell us a little bit about this.
So we continue basically to build on our icon, and Gala is really a very iconic piece of Piaget, expressing, I think, all the best arts of Piaget with as you can see here, gem setting. We have also gold bracelet, hand engraved. We have another one which has also the sapphire gradient, but has also the dial, which is hand engraved with enamel, and it all gives a look and feel which is very, as you say, emotional. And at the same time, I like the fact that it's forward thinking in a way, and at the same time, it integrates all the heritage and I would say the traditional crafts of Piaget. And we're very proud to have all these crafts at Piaget. We're very proud to still be able to use them and capitalize on them. There are so many companies and industries where they had crafts like previous centuries, but they cannot use it anymore. And today, we're able to continue to work on all these different crafts. And that's a fantastic piece that expresses, I think, very well Piaget. It is refined. It is very distinctive. And what I like really about the Piaget pieces, I found they have tremendous personality. They're very charismatic. You like them or you don't like them, but when you like them, you find really what's different about them. So the fact that there is a very distracted, distorted lugs, the fact that it's not a round watch, it has a certain personality. I think it expresses also the women's personality. It expresses a certain charisma. You can't just go for that as a basic watch. You have to have a certain personality and a certain taste to admire, I think, the Gala. So that's why I like it, because I think it is a watch that expresses today a lot of women
if we could just pause for a moment. Sumit, do you mind to bring back the picture of the crafts, the engraving that's being done on that bracelet? Because every time I go to the Piaget manufacturer and I walk by that section where they're making the bracelets, it's so cool, you know? And I think that people don't realize that, first of all, you're making these in-house. And a lot of people do not make bracelets in-house, first of all. And then second of all, that these are all done in such a way that these tiny interconnecting links that are being placed, that I think they're like drilled and placed through wire. And then you go back and sort of like put this engraving on there, which completely changes the texture and emotional feeling of the watch. And in some ways almost hides the links because it's almost invisible now, you know?
Absolutely, and you have to know that it's when one craftsman starts, it has to finish the same watch, because the pressure that that person puts, the way it is done, the lines have to be the same. So it has to be from the beginning to the end of the bracelet. And yes,
Oh, wow.
Piaget is very well known for great integrated bracelets, old bracelets, and yes, we're very proud to continue to do these bracelets at Piaget. And as you said, where we have these people doing that. Some of them are also there from generation to generation. So it's an actual craft that is really loved, and a lot of passion is in this area. And I do hope that people, like you say, feel that there is so much passion and so much energy behind every single piece of these watches.
Incredible. You know, I really feel, and for some time I've been really interested in the subject of bracelets, and I feel as if they're coming back in a very big way, like the whole understanding and appreciation of bracelets, which of course add a premium to the watch, but they are works of art unto themselves and completely change the expression and identity of any watch. Mm-hmm. So we bring that picture back up of the Aventurine, because that's one of my favorite materials also, this incredible glass that's being made in Venice. And let's take a look at how that creates a beautiful expression also for the Limelight. Tell us a bit about this, Chabi.
Well, this is interesting because the feel of this Aventurine, I think it's really like a starry night. You have the feeling that it's the sky and you see all the stars. It has a relief to it. It's like a 3D expression. I like the name also, the Aventurine. It's adventure in Italian. So I think it brings you into a complete different world. It allows you to escape into these nights, and I think it brings a lot of emotion. And at the same time, it's very distinctive, and it's also very exclusive to have this type of pieces. So this is also a very nice watch. It has on the side, you can really see through the diamonds. We've worked a special setting so that we really see the diamonds coming out of the watch. So it's very nice.
Chabi, as usual, it's such a pleasure to talk to you. Again, huge congratulations on the creation of the Piaget Altiplano Ultimate Concept as a watch for production now. I can only imagine that you'll have to get your shelves, move some space there, because you'll be winning probably quite a few prizes, but that's awesome. Thank you so much for joining us.
Awesome for Piaget. It's awesome for my teams. It's awesome for the people that have gone through that. I'm so proud. Honestly, it's one of these rare moments, because it's not that I'm praising myself all the time, not at all. I'm praising the teams here. And I have to say that I'm very, very proud of that. It's a spectacular watch. It excites me every time. I have the smile like here, and it really creates a lot of emotion. I love it. Thank you very much for your support. It's also thanks to all of your questions, your challenges, because you've always been very challenging. We're not doing that right now, but we were together. You pushed me also a lot, and it's thanks to all of these moments that we're like, okay, shit, we have to go with that. We have to go with. We have to do this. I think that's a good dynamism in the industry. So I'm very happy about that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chabi. And for anyone tuning in, I would suggest that you also follow Chabi on Instagram for her uplifting messages, which are putting a smile on everyone's face and reminding us to treasure life, because we have a lot to look forward to. Cheers.
Cheers. Do all stay safe, please. And I really do hope to see you physically very soon around the world.
I would love that. Thank you, Chabi. Take care.